Okay, so what's that feeling you have when you're sitting in front of a bunch of people and you're going, I'm going to live code something and you can't get the network up? That's the feeling I'm having right now. So hopefully everything will kind of work. We will see. There's a couple of things I won't be able to demo, so I'll just have to describe them instead. But most of what I want to cover off will work without a network. Demo gods be pleased. Okay, so what is Flutter? Flutter to me is a way of getting things built quickly. The team is very focused on two different forms of quickness. One is 60 frames per second, and the second is the speed of development. So you as a developer interacting with an app. And I figure the best way to show that to you is actually show you me developing a non-trivial app in about 200 lines of code that does something interesting. So here I am starting with possibly the simplest app that I can think of. It's got a small piece of text on the screen, and well, it's great and all. It looks like a material app running on an iPhone, but wouldn't it be great if the text was like centered and a bit bigger? So let's bring that through. And of course, I'm cheating just a little bit. So what have I done? I've wrapped the text in a center widget, and I've given the text a little bit of a bump up in size, and here, ba-ching, we've got a bigger text. Well, what if you'd like to, give that text some color? What color would we like it to be? Sorry, what? Can we go with green? I am not typing numbers in, sorry. So these are the sorts of things we can do. One thing I'd like to point out is we actually have... no, it's not working. Format document. We have an interesting thing that if you've done React Native development, you'll actually notice there's a whole lot of... we've taken a lot of ideas from the React Native environment. And one of them is that React Native shows that people like to be able to declare inside their code what the sort of layout is. But instead of like gluing an XML parser inside a JavaScript language, what we've done is we've taken Dart and simplified the language, taken a few things out of it, so that you can actually get this very declarative style of coding in Dart itself. So here we've got text surrounded by a center, and it all feels like it's just HTML style markup. That's very intentional. Now I should, what was I doing there? I should probably undo these changes so Git won't scream at me. So I'll just roll that back, because I want to go to step 3. So what am I doing here? As you probably saw, we have a single thing on the screen. But when it comes to developing mobile apps, a lot of mobile apps are based around lists. So the most powerful component I feel inside the Flutter toolkit is a list view. It gives us the ability to, as soon as I press the reload button, turn around and have list views that people can interact with. So here I've got a pair of text views. Text views are interesting and all, but wouldn't it be nice if we tied this to an actual database backend? And here's where it could get interesting, because the database is not hosted on this machine. So let's see how well I can do on step 4. Helps if I click in my editor. So I've just introduced a whole bunch of code. What have I done here? Well, how about I press the reload button? This usually happens automatically when you save, but strange enough, when you're changing things using Git, the editor doesn't know to actually force the reload. But we've got a whole bunch of data here. Where does all this data come from? Well, it comes down to this thing here. I'm taking the power of Google Cloud Firestore, and I've got a bunch of documents stored in that, named dishes, and each dish has a photographer, an image, and a few things like that. So this is great. How do we attach this into this data that's constantly changing? Remembering that the power of the web is people constantly type things into the web, and you've got to react to that. Cloud Firestore empowers you to take that on, and Flutter takes advantage of that by a thing called a stream builder. Who here knows what streams are? No? Well, I'm assuming most of you have heard of things like futures, where you've got this event that happens sometime in the future. A stream is effectively a future that keeps on happening. It's a stream of events. And what Stream Builder does is it gives you the ability to create a UI that reacts to events that happen, that come down that stream of events. So what I've done is I've attached a Stream Builder to a Firebase query. So this Firebase query is saying, give me all the dishes, ordered by photographer, and give me a list of events as they change. Stream Builder attaches to that and generates a UI. It's important to note that I'm handling the case of not having any data. This is important. It might only happen for a couple of frames, but it will happen. But when we do have data, we turn around and put it on the screen. So a list of dishes with photographers is interesting, but wouldn't it be... Was that a question at the back? No, just stretching. That's all good. I'm quite happy to take questions during the talk. If you see something that confuses you, shout out. It's much better for you guys to interact with me and I can sort it out there and then, as opposed to having half the room going, I have no idea what he's talking about. Okay, diving on to step 5. Press the reload button. Now this looks lots better. We have a set of images. It's great. I will admit up front that I'm kind of cheating a little bit in that if we scroll down and have a look at, I should mention, I just created a new widget. This is something that when you're doing development, one of the really nice things about putting your UI markup in code is that you have the ability to use all the things that you do in a normal programming language, encapsulation, refactoring, and it all just works. So what I've done here is I've refactored out this cooking image widget. The reason I've done this is that I'm going to do a bunch of code right there, and having it all in line, it would have got really big and gnarly. I know it gets really big and gnarly because that's how I originally did it, and then I went, that looks ugly, I should refactor into widgets. And I did. So, the trick here, or the cheat that I implemented is that I've baked all the images into the app as assets. I thought this was going to be important because, well, I was going to be on a bad network connection, so it'd be nice to have the images not coming over my phone. Then I step up on stage and my phone's not connecting to my laptop. So yes, I have really bad network up here right now. So I'm glad I implemented that minor hack. Otherwise we'd be staring at a blank screen right now and it would be bad. So on to step 6. This is iOS, so we're implementing iOS style scrolling. If I was running on an Android emulator, it'd be Android style scrolling. But with iOS style scrolling is we can over scroll and we're seeing the white underneath. And I think that looks ugly underneath a bunch of pictures. So it'd be nice if I could hide that background and black it out. The other thing I've done is an optimization that is very much in tune with Flutter's always aim for 60 frames per second. And that is I've given each element of the list a key that's unique, and that key enables the UI the UI framework to know which tile is which, so when I change things, it does the right thing. It's purely about optimization, but I put it there because it makes some of the things we do later work better. Okay, reload. So in theory, you wouldn't have seen any change, but if I turn around and over scroll it, it's now black. Okay, on to the next step. Okay, that widget just got a whole lot more complicated. What did I do? What did I implement? I implemented a gesture detector. Why would I implement a gesture detector? Well, wouldn't it be nice if when I tap on something, something happens? Ooh, you know what would help? So, actually I feel like I've skipped something because we've got this guy here and we shouldn't have got that there that fast. What was the last step I was on? I have skipped a bunch of steps. Okay, let's go back and do that. I don't have Zara here to count for me, man. I'm dying on stage. You'll have to tell her. So, which number am I up to? Step 7? Okay. Okay, good. I'm back on track. So, it would be nice if we one of the nice things with a list of dishes to go, which ones do I like, which ones do I not like? So what I've done is that I have in the data a list of things that have been favorited. And so what we're introducing here, Yep. So down here, we're reacting to when the document data has this favorited attribute. And I'm doing a little bit of a hack here. I'm optionally including something in a list by either having the element or null and then filtering the null out. There's interesting bugs where people are arguing about how this should be best handled, but apparently this is the current best approach. I'm not sure if I like it or not, but it works. It means that we can have some with hearts and some without. Cool. But honestly, this heart sitting out here by itself looks a bit raw. I'd really like it if there was some sort of background, some sort of contrast so that the heart wasn't just sitting there in empty space, some sort of UI. Okay. Step 7. Step 8 is next. Okay. Counting is a thing. Okay. So those of you who've come from HTML land know that you can use and abuse divs for everything. Well, in Flutter, the equivalent, the moral equivalent, is the container. And what I'm doing here is that I'm placing a container in between the cooking image and the little favorite icon. And with that, I've got a white background that's white 70%. Here, look, we even have flyovers that tell us what things are. And we have a box decoration to give it a round. So, pa-ching. I should point out, this looks a little confusing. And I was debating with myself whether I should leave this in, so I'll show you what it looks like if I don't. So, we've got a bunch of different ways of padding things. Symmetric. There should be an all in there. Yeah, there is. So my first attempt was all 4. And I don't know if you can see it, but up close and personal when looking on the phone, the circle looks like it's a little too low. Now, so the LTRB is left, top, right, bottom, and it's just a way of giving the specific numbers, and all it's doing is shifting it by 1 pixel, and for whatever reason, it just feels a bit better when I do that. It's possibly not that visible from where you're sitting, but on my phone, it was annoying the crap out of me. When I was talking about speed of development, this is what I'm really talking about. You've got it live on your phone, you've got some data in there, and you just want to push things around a little bit. Flutter gives you that ability to just instantly make changes and have them flow through. Okay, next step. We're on to step 8. Thank you. Don't know what I'd do without you, Andrew. Okay. We just got a bunch of new stuff. What did we change? Let's have a look. Let's see what happens. Oh no! I was joking with people earlier and saying that I'm running on Dev because the Firebase plugin for Flutter only works in Dev. The one downside of doing a live presentation on stage with a dev branch is that sooner or later it's probably going to crash on you. It just crashed on me. Hey. The interesting thing that we've introduced in step 9 is that we've just introduced a gesture detector. So what's a gesture detector? Gestures are those things where you like tap and swipe and double tap and all that sort of thing. So what I want to do is this list of things I've got on the screen, I want to start interacting with it. I want to have a master detail relationship. So you tap on the photo, you get a screen with some more information. Looks like we're back. Wonder what happens if I tap on it. Woohoo! It does something. I'm not sure that it's the nicest thing. We're looking at an image and then the same image comes. Isn't there a better way of having images move between pages? I hear there's this thing called a hero animation. Andrew, what step am I up to? Oh my god. Let's hide that and give us some space back. So I've got yet another widget. You'll hear that a lot if you hang out with Flutter developers. It's always a widget. You need to create a widget. You might as well refactor it into widgets. So what I've created is a hero image widget. And all this is doing is taking the image that we had before, which is the asset image, and wrapping it in a hero tag. Now the interesting thing about this hero image, to make it actually work, I'm just using the image path on disk as that unique tag, is it has to be the same in the target page, and it also has to be in the source. As long as these two tags line up, it just works. So pressing the reload button. Ooh, I'm on the wrong screen. You can now see that, well, okay, so we've got the hero animation. I can animate between two things, but it looks kind of odd. Wouldn't it be nice if we pulled it in from the sides a bit, gave it some round corners? That sounds like a fun thing to do. Let's do that. So scrolling down to the bottom where things are actually changing. What I've done is on the detail page, so again, thinking about master detail relationships, I've taken the hero image, I've wrapped it in a clipped rounded rect, so I've taken the corners off it, and then I've wrapped that in a padding widget. So the thing you'll notice with Flutter is that because we actually have really good GC, thanks to the Dart team's like heroic fascination with creating VMs that run really quickly, is that we can turn around and create these really deeply nested hierarchies of immutable objects and render them to the GPU really quickly, enabling us to do things that in other toolkits are based on mutation and wind up with all sorts of fun and games with, did I get the right thing? Okay, we've got this image, it floats between the two, we've got rounded corners. About the only thing I missed was the drop shadow, right? No, I'm not going to code a drop shadow live on stage. Sorry. Okay. So now that we have this image, what have I actually changed? It's about now that I'm trying desperately not to press the Git changes button and seeing what changes I actually made. Ah, I knew I was going to do this to myself. This is the step that actually has no visual changes on screen, which means it's the step where I'm refactoring things. And the reason I'm refactoring things is, well, refactoring is fun. I've created a new set of widgets, particularly the detail image. The detail page was getting too complicated. Again, yet another widget. Let's get on to step 13. No, it doesn't like me when I do that. Now, the reason I introduced all of that complexity in yet another widget is that I need the ability to get data. If we're going to have a detail page, turns out when you use the I didn't really talk about it. I really should have talked about it. Up here, the on-tap handler for that gesture detector that I included, we have a thing called a Navigator. It's probably what you think of it is. It's the page navigator. It handles navigating between pages. It's how I go from the master page to the detail page. The fun thing about it is that it creates effectively a new context. So when I'm in the detail page, I don't have access to that stream of events that's happening in the main page. So to deal with that, in the detail page, I'm passing through a document ID, which is my connection in Firebase, to actually get yet another stream builder. So this is yet another Firestore query. It's slightly different in that the last time round we were looking for a collection of dishes ordered by photographers. This time I'm just saying, in the collection of dishes, give me the document named random string of alphanumerics. Okay, so this gives me a new document. Let's have a look and see what happens when I run it. Okay, so I can, wait, what? I can click into it. I get the hero animation on the way out, but the hero animation is broken on the way in. Anyone have a guess as to why? There's something I mentioned when I talked about stream builder contexts on the first time through. And the trick here is that it's a stream of events. The first event it gives you is a null. It's basically, hello, I'm here, but I don't know what the data is yet. I'm waiting for the server to talk to me, I'm waiting for the SQLite to return. So effectively, the first frame that I'm generating here has nothing in it, so I'm breaking the hero animation. I effectively need to pass it a dummy screen when I've got no data that still has that hero animation with that tag in it so that we can effectively get that image all the way across and all the way back. Andrew? Thank you. It's not going to get old anytime soon. We're going to be doing this for months, man. That's okay. I'll buy you beer. So now that I've introduced this handling for the null, we have a working hero animation again. It's horrible. I give you something, I take it away, I give it back to you. You sort of like feel like I'm playing with you, don't you? So this is how you need to remember that when you have stream builders, you need to handle the null case. Otherwise, you'll wind up in situations where things just don't magically stop working. I know, that took me half an hour to figure out. Okay, we're on the home stretch, guys. It's all good. Okay, so we've got this photo, but we know nothing about it. We know in the back-end data that we have some detail about the photographer. It'd be nice to actually label that on the image. So what I've done is I've created yet another widget. You'll notice that's a bit of a thing. It's all widgets, I believe, is the official phrasing. So we've got a detail image. We now have a detail image label. And what this label says is photo by photographer on Unsplash. So I'm complying with their terms and conditions. Paching! Okay, we've got a label. But the inner designer in me looks at that and goes, it's ugly, it doesn't line up with anything. Can't you just make it line up? Well, yeah, strangely enough, this being Flutter, what we can do is wrap it in. Come on, you guys can do it. Complete the sentence for me. What are we going to wrap the text in to make it align? Yeah, that would probably work. So I'm going the simple way with a padding. You can use a container. Container can take a padding argument, and it will then create the padding widget for you. Either way will work. If you wrap it in a container, you have the ability to do other things, like round corners and all that sort of fun stuff. But I just want the padding at this point, and boom, we now have it padded. Okay, so I said 20 steps. We've got, what, 17, 18, 19, 4 more steps. Andrew, you're falling down on the job here, man. What else are we going to do? Well, it'd be nice to actually have some sort of button that we could press to actually say that we like it or not. So let's add that in. Uh, 16, 17. Okay. Let's have a look. So this is hearted. I like steak. No one can deny. Yada, yada, yada. So that's good, but there just happens to be a slight problem. Picking out a specific dish that I know has a really long name, just to show you, there it is, the way in which Flutter will fail if you don't do your paddings and layouts correctly. It's interesting in that it turns around and flags it for you. It does these little yellow and blacks and has a little text icon. And if I show you the info log, it'll give you a nice 20-line thing saying you've done this wrong, you've done that wrong. The important thing to understand here is that widgets will take up as much space as you give them. If they take up too much space, that's effectively a programming error. The way you get around this, it's going to sound weird to say this, the way to shorten a text box is to wrap it and expand. I know it sounds a bit odd, but that's actually the phrasing they've used. Because there's this flip case where things are either as small as possible or as large as possible depending on what they're wrapped in. Take it from me, expand is the thing you want. So, I've expanded it. I've also added in a little bit of a chunk so that it can sit between the text label and the image. I should point out, for those who are, again, coming from the web background and know about flexboxes and all that sort of thing, this is effectively a flexbox because it's a row, which you can probably tell by this main axis alignment. There's also cross-axis alignment if you want to do those sorts of things. You've got a whole bunch of space between, space around, start, end, all those sorts of things. So yes, the people who built this have come from the web, so that if you like your web stuff but you'd like it fast on mobile, Flutter's the thing for you. Okay. Paching! Not broken. Okay, so there's only one thing I think that's missing. We've got this icon that we want to tap on and make do things, but it doesn't do anything. So what's the answer to that? I've given you one way of doing it. Does it? Gesture detector. I'm going to use a different way because I'm like that. Andrew? You're falling down, man.
I was going to correct if you were wrong.
So, we've introduced an Inkwell. So Inkwell is a material-specific form of interaction, and what it does when you tap on it, it gives you a little ink splashy. Now, I haven't made this anywhere big enough, and I figured this out when I actually started using it on my phone and went, that's a really picky little button. Turns out I'm so not HIG compliant, but let's not go there. The interesting thing here is we have this on-tap handler. So all of the gesture detectors or Inkwells require an on-tap handler, but they don't actually need you to say anything to actually fire. But if we want it to do something, we should put some code in it. So, bringing us around to the even 20. Click. Thank you, Andrew. What I have here is quite possibly not completely compliant in that this way of updating Firebase opens you up to race conditions because I'm not introducing a transaction. The reason I'm doing it this way is that, well, A, there's no way I can do a transaction if I'm offline. So this will fail miserably in the form because I'm offline. But secondly, using transactions when your Firebase data store is in America and you're in Sydney, it's kind of slow. So I'm doing the optimistic locking and just going, you know what, last right wins. Firestore gives you that option. You can go either way. And with that, we now have the ability to have things that actually turn around and remember where they're at. And with that, we're done.